Hey neighbor, welcome back to the 21st century. My name is John, and it's time to review Weezer's 14th studio album, OK Human. With a nod to Radiohead's OK Computer sitting right there in the title, this marks yet another sharp turn in their ever-expanding discography, as this time they adopt more of an orchestral approach to music. Their frontman Rivers Cuomo has been teasing this project since before the release of the Black Album in 2019, and I can't lie, I was pretty intrigued by the way he described it. A piano-based album with a full orchestra playing on every song and only using analog equipment to record is what they promised, and it's also what they delivered, which is a nice surprise. OK Human was intended for release after Van Weezer, which is now dropping in May, but obviously touring plans were thrown into this purgatory scenario due to COVID, so they recorded this one during lockdown and decided to put it out first. All my favorite songs landed a week before the album as the lead single, and it is a full-on dopamine rush despite it being rather sad lyrically. It's a subtle smash of a song that blends multiple worlds of Weezer all at once, and that sets a very high bar, so let's get into the rest of the record to see if they could actually keep up that brilliant change of pace. To my fellow long-suffering Weezer fans that are fully braced for the roller coaster ride of quality that comes with each passing release, unclench your fists, loosen the seatbelt, you're safe now. This quick 30-minute 12-song album is a new leaf, but not so new that you'd ever forget that you're listening to Weezer, if that makes sense. OK Human is their most obviously sad record since Pinkerton. Rivers is honest about his complicated feelings towards technology, leaving him to grapple with this disconnected feeling despite everything anyone could technically want being right at the tap of a screen. There's hopeful musings thrown in too, but more than that, this is an exploration of the ordinary day-to-day human condition. It's a blessing and a curse, but the most drastic shift you'll notice beyond the melancholic tone is the music written to accompany the vocal mix. The whole gimmick, I guess if you want to call it that, of an orchestra playing behind Weezer of all bands suits them way better than it has any right to. It's an extra layer for a veteran group that elevates the mood, or maybe just sells it stronger than the core four-piece band ever could. The other members absolutely have their involvement, but some of the biggest reasons this album works has more to do with the production and the additional hired hands, since this is such an unconventional album. They never lose sight of making this a Weezer record though, which would have been a major pitfall, so expect plenty of Weezerisms, just in more of a fanciful setting. Jake Sinclair returned as producer after working with Weezer on the amazing and probably still underrated White Album in 2016. There's an emotional depth to these songs that sucks you down the rabbit hole into the room with Rivers. His voice sounds crisp and tender, and the instrumentation is lush with enough room for the emotions to hit a major swell. Pat's drumming on the album is another immediate standout, as he secures more of a classic playing style to match the Baroque pop instrumentation. Many of these tracks sound like they were heavily influenced by the Beatles, or maybe even some of the McCartney solo era stuff, but I really hear a lot of Revolver and the other White Album, not by Weezer, on OK Human. Melodies stack up beautifully throughout, which is something that's definitely been lacking in recent years. They don't back down, despite being rather understated at times, especially on some of the hooks. Not every song is immediately catchy in a Buddy Holly pork and beans type of way. Also, not every song grabs you by the throat, and the swift exits from track to track occasionally make you wonder why the music sounds so similar, but amazingly enough, I think the geeky, emo lyrics about run-of-the-mill humanity serve as the album's secret weapon. All My Favorite Songs is a work of art. The simple genius of Weezer, flexing its brain power to be just dumb enough to make you chuckle, but earwormy enough to never leave the back of your cerebral cortex. I love this song wholeheartedly, and it really does feel like classic Rivers writing set to a different beat, or I guess in this case, a different string. Impressive choruses happen at other points on the album too, but this was the obvious single choice. The rhyme and reason are on point, but it might not be the best song overall. See, I mentioned the Beatles being a pretty big influence and notable contribution to the process, and my personal favorite hits right down the bullseye of Eleanor Rigby Lane. That gem is Playing My Piano, a shockingly emotional ode to putting the world away and focusing on your love for music or whatever else your passion might be. We tend to get caught up in thinking that complex equals better for lyrics and music, but to me, this is proof that sometimes all you need is to sit down, zone out, and find your zen doing something that you're passionate about. So passionate that apparently Rivers could have his entire city blown up by Kim Jong-un and he'd never know. A line that just made me crack up. Rivers never change. Numbers was a tearjerker moment that I fuck with heavily. In fact, you may have heard me talk in the past about my own struggle with staring at numbers, analytics, and likes. It's a terrible addiction that is honestly really inhumane, and I think this emo ballad perfectly explains why we're never gonna fill that empty hole. Numbers are used to make us feel less than, inadequate, non-existent. And Rivers further elaborates on this frustration through the lens of his family, who he feels like he's losing because they stare at their screens all day like zombies. I think a lot of us are probably sick of hearing technology bad songs, but this really doesn't feel like that to me. It's a sincere moment of reflection, but I will give you this. The string-driven affair does sound eerily similar to Grapes of Wrath found earlier in the track list. I didn't realize Audible was in the business of sponsoring entire songs now. P.S. Audible, you still haven't sponsored the channel, feel free to reach out. But Rivers laments the desire for escapism by rocking his Audible headphone Grapes of Wrath, which is hilarious to envision. It's up there with the bruised butt lyric from Aloo Gobi. I hope I'm saying that right. Although I did find that song pretty forgettable. Actually, just scratch that, I'll say it. I think it's the worst song on the album, even though it's not awful. Grapes slaps though. That backing guitar sounds very 1800s Baroque with a modern touch to the drum and string playing. It's a powerful dose of serotonin that's certainly needed before we bulldoze through that emotional midsection. Bird with a Broken Wing is the most vulnerable song to be found, but it's also really focused and strong, anxious to rebound knowing that there's still a song to be sung beyond today. The arrangements will have you floating up in the clouds, watching a replay of your own life that's come before you, but as the memories start to shrink to the size of ants the higher we go, the more you realize that's actually okay, because some of the pain is moving away with age. Dead Roses stabbed me in the gut with its Brian Wilson-esque vocal cadence. Shout out to the backing vocals throughout OK Human, by the way. They're really effective, some of those harmonies, and it's stunning use of minimalism to drive the point home. It's one of the best songs lyrically, even if the Ubaid-inspired mirror image deserved to be way longer and probably could have been up there too. What can I say? I'm a fan of this sound, and I applaud the desire to do something different, and it actually worked. It's an ordinary album that occasionally borders on the extraordinary just because of how well they keep those gears turning. OK Human gets a 4 out of 5. What did you guys think of this ambitious new Weezer album? Are you still looking forward to Van Weezer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't forget to perform a nuclear strike on that like button while you're down there. I'd never know. If you haven't seen my top 20 Weezer songs, then tap right here. Tap here for another recent Weezer review. And other than that, I'll be back soon for more right here on ARTV.